Hello, everybody. I guess I am live. It's great to see all of you, although there's nobody watching yet. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find this. All right. I brought myself up early so I didn't have to go around in circles here. Lisa, what's going on? All right. I tried to bring this up and it didn't work. Okay, there I am. There we go. Oh, there's nobody watching yet. Okay, there we go. All right, everybody. Hi, Kaylee. Hello, Kaylee. And Laura. Hello, hello, hello. And Diana. Nice to see everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for coming on. This is lovely. I am just going to post this. Hey, Crystal, lovely to see you. All right, I am saying hi to everybody, and then I'm going to just share this onto my story. That's easy. All right, everybody. So, and I'm going to share this. Why is this always so complicated? More options. Share to a page. Nope, not that. All right, maybe I won't share this. Okay, share now. All right, well, it's out there. Okay, everybody, so it's good to see all of you. Hey, Kelly, Kelly, it's great to see you. All right, so let's talk today about what does everybody think are big turnoffs for men? Anybody want to chime in here and just throw those in the chat? What do you all think are big turnoffs for men? What are some of the big ones? Anybody know? What are some things that really, really, really turn men off? I'm just curious if anybody has any ideas of things. I want to get you all involved. Hey, Lisa, good to see you. Yep, when you act like a mother, trying to control them. Yep. Does anybody know what a man's biggest fear is? Trying to control them, shaming, insecurity, clinginess. Yep, suffocating. What do you all think the biggest emasculating behavior? Brilliant. These are great. What's underneath all of this? Rudeness. What do you all think is the single biggest fear men have? Losing. Lisa Cohen for the money. Lisa, hands down, disrespect. Really a man's biggest fear is that he is going to lose his freedom. He's going to lose his freedom in a relationship. So I want to share. So I've got something that I want to share with all of you regarding that. Getting hurt, Allison said. These are all great, ladies. Okay, so let me share with you something absolutely extraordinary about men. And it really is, this is an art. One of the biggest turnoffs for men is anything that's going to make him feel like he's going to lose his personal freedom. Yes, you have, Lisa. You have been paying attention. Yeah, to be disrespected. So underneath all of this is men are afraid of losing their personal freedom. And this is something that Judy says that's her biggest fear too. Interesting, Judy. You may want to look at that. Women's fear is usually a bit different. So for women, we both men and women have our dream, like we have our ideal, like our dream, and then we have also a need, right? So there's like our dream and then a need. And so Um, for women, our dream is, or our dream is that we want the love of one man. And for our need is also that we want the love of one man. For men, their dream is to have a whole harem of beautiful women, endless beautiful women. That's what men dream of. Endless beautiful women. But their need is really for the love of one woman. So here's the paradox in this, is that for a woman to get her need met, she doesn't have to give anything up because her need and her dream are identical. For men, they have to give up their dream in order to get their deepest need met. Does that make sense to everybody? So a man has to give up his freedom in order to get the love of one woman. Lisa Ferguson, hello, hello. And this is really, it's very important as women that we understand that we have an understanding that for a man to choose us, we're not giving up our choice of endless men. We want the safety and the security of a relationship with one man. But a man has to give up his dream of endless, beautiful women, even if that's a fantasy. Hey, Catherine, good to see you. Hello. Does that make sense? And so I think not enough of women really understand what a huge sacrifice, what a big ask this is of us from men. We just sort of take it on faith, or we expect that if a man is going to be with us, that he's going to give up his other women, his personal freedom, and to be with us, and that's, our prerogative. That if they're going to be with us, that we expect monogamy and whatever. And I'm not telling you not to expect monogamy. I do think for most men, Lisa, do all men have that fantasy? I don't know. Do most men have that fantasy? Yes. Most, if you walk, I think most men, that's what men do. If you look at women's magazines are all about finding your soulmate and the love of one man and whatever. If you look at men's magazines, it's Playboy, it's Maxim, it's things where they have gorgeous women that men can gawk over. So it's different. I used to shoot for Playboy magazine, not Playboy. I used to be a photographer, and I actually, truth be told, I used to shoot centerfolds for Playgirl magazine. And Playgirl magazine was mostly for gay men. Women were not buying Playgirl magazine to look at the centerfold and look at the hot naked men. They were getting it was mostly gay men who were buying that magazine. So but men's magazines, there's hot women and there's fast cars and all, and the fast cars are to impress the hot women. So and they remind the men of beautiful women. So I know that this is all not, so yes, men have to give up their freedom in order to have the love of one woman. And it's something that it's important as women that we understand that and that we don't take it for granted. Now, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting that any woman should not want monogamy and the safety of a marriage where both people are fully committed to each other and where there is an agreement that that there's no outside people. Those are all fine things to want, but I do think it's also very important to respect who men are and to know that they're not like us. They're different than us. They may ultimately want the same things that we want, but they're also, men and women have different desires. Men have high testosterone levels and women have high estrogen levels. We give birth to babies, and there's reasons why we want the safety and security of one man, because especially if you're going to be a woman, you're going to have children, you want to know that your partner is going to show up and that he's going to be faithful, because you have a family to care for. And so, we have every right to want that in our relationships. Hi, Debbie, it's great to see you. We want to make sure that we have that in our relationships. We need that safety, that security. But yes, it is the truth. But, men really do give up their sexual freedom. And part of being a man is, the chase. They were hunters, and that's what they did. That was, in our early growth and development, men were hunters. And women had babies, and we raised the babies, and we sat with the other women cooking and, and so forth. And so it's just different. So it's important to know that men really do value their freedom. And some of the women here have said, well, I'm worried about the loss of my freedom. And you may want to look at that. There are very many women today who are very masculine. And that could be a sign that you are more aligned with your masculine energy than you are with the feminine side of you. Because when we're really aligned with being women, most women, even if we are extremely successful and capable and all, most women, it is in our natural frequency to want to be able to relax and to know that we will have a man there who will pick up the slack, who will show up for us, who will protect us. Lisa says, you've always given the men that you had their freedom. Well, that's good to know, Lisa. That's a good thing. A lot of women don't, and we don't really respect a man's need for space and freedom. So one of the best books I have ever read was a book by a woman named Lillian Rubin, and she was really quite a remarkable woman. Lillian Rubin wrote a book called Intimate Strangers. And this book was written probably 30 years ago. It was written, during the women's lib movement. And she was talking about, she's a therapist and I believe a sociologist, and being a recovered avoidant makes it easy. Lisa, I actually did the same thing. I was really good at giving, but I think you just men freedom and space, but I think you just hit the nail on the head. It was part of my avoidant behavior that I was very spacious. So in this book that Lillian Rubin wrote, I learned something remarkable. And what she talked about was a man's need for freedom and for space, and not to be smothered or suffocated by women. And what Lillian Rubin said was that in our early growth, when we're babies, when we're all babies, we're usually little boys are very bonded to their mothers. So they're super bonded. There's a very close bond. I don't know if some of you, I hear this all the time, that little boys can be way more affectionate than little girls. And they're very bonded to their mothers. And what starts to happen is, as they grow up and they start to develop and get older, they start to realize that they're different than their mothers. They're not like their mothers. They don't see, there's no differentiation in the beginning. There's no male and female, and they don't realize that there's a difference. And so the closest person in their world is their mother. And what happens is, as they grow, they start to become aware of the fact that they're different than their mothers. Little boys need to start to separate and separate, and what is called separate and individuate. And it's very, very important that a little boy be able to go through that process. Hey, Annette, good to see you. So it's extremely important that when a little boy starts to get to be, 11, 12, 13, and he starts to get towards puberty, that he is allowed that space, that the mother doesn't hold on or cling to the little boy, but that she starts to understand that one of the important stages in a man's development. Hey, Maria, good to see you. One of the important stages in a man's development is that she give him that space. And what happens is there's a very big, deep psychological rift that happens in a young boy when he starts to realize that he isn't like his mother. He needs to become a man, and so she has to give him the space to be able to do that. And so it's a really rough time for a little boy, because the person that he was closest to is now, he pushes her away to a certain degree so that he can start to become a man, because he realizes that he's not like his mother. Now, women never go through this because our first primary caregiver is our mother. And even if we don't like our mothers, we're like our mothers. We have the same bodies, we have the same body parts. Many of us will go on to be mothers ourselves. And so it's very different for women than it is for men. We're always close. We're always up in each other's business. Women are always bonded. There's never that moment where we have to reject our mother so that we can become our own person. And so for boys, this is a very deep moment in their psychological development. If the mother doesn't allow the little boy his space and his freedom to become his own person and his own man, if, for example, she's a single mother and she's turning her little boy into her pseudo partner, or he's becoming the husband that she doesn't have, or she relies on him in certain ways, or she tries to control him and keep him close to her, and she doesn't respect his need for space, it can really affect his sense of trust and safety with women. So a lot of damage can be done in those years where the little boy is wanting to separate from his mother. And then what happens is when the little boy starts to separate, he basically says to himself, I will never rely on a woman that way again. So you really have to get this. I will never be dependent on a woman in that way again. And so he makes this decision that he is now going to become his own person. And he will never need a woman again in the way that he needed his mother. This is why when we start mothering men or telling them what to do or talking down to them, it can trigger a very negative response in a man, because it starts to remind him of his mother. And number one, he doesn't want to sleep with his mother. It's not sexy, but it also takes him back to that point in his life. So it's important to remember that, you really do have to respect a man's need for space. And one of the things that Lillian Rubin talks about in this book, and something that if you really want to be successful as a woman in relationships, it's very important to know that for a man to really start to build safety and trust with you, he needs to know that he can come together and apart, and that you will respect that when he's apart and when he needs that distance, you will be able to give him that space, that distance, And the more you can do that with a secure man, with a healthy, secure man, an emotionally available man, the more you do that, the less he's going to need to test that with you. So really get that. The more you can give him space to come together and apart, and you can respect his need for space, the less he's going to need to do that with you. But it's really important to learn how to do that with a man and to respect his need for space and to not smother him when he does need space. Now, a lot of my clients will say to me, well, how do I know, like, how much space is too much space, right? How do I know if he's just pulling away or that he just really needs a little bit of space from me? So that's a great question, right? Anybody out there? Anybody ever have this experience where you don't know how much space is too much space, or what do you do? How do you tell if a man is just pulling you away or stringing you along? Okay. So the right man is going to come back. He's going to come back. So we're not talking about days or weeks or months. We're talking about a man who may have a day or, a few hours or a day where he might need a little space, but then he comes back, right? He comes back. He starts texting you again. He attaches. He's not afraid to come back and spend time with you. So Lisa says that her guy will take his space, and when he wants to be close, he'll invite me to go on walks with him. Yeah, but there's a consistency, Lisa, in that he doesn't leave you hanging, because a conscious man, a secure man, knows that a woman who is in love with him and who is building a relationship with him, that she is going to be worried. She's going to start to wonder, and he's conscious of that. He knows that he can't just leave her hanging. You want a man who's also thinking about you and your feelings, and who doesn't just leave you out there hanging for long periods of time before he comes back. So Stacy says, in time, I think you develop a sense of his communication patterns. You do, Stacy, but you can develop a sense of them, but you also want him to come back. It's got to be consistent. He can't leave you hanging for long periods of time. It's got to be, it could be a little bit of time, but there's got to be consistent, and you don't want a man who just leaves you hanging. He's got to be aware that he's taken time, and that he also has to be conscious of you and your feelings as well. Judy wrote that I do have more masculine energy. However, I've dated a few men who were very controlling, which triggered the fear of losing my freedom. Well, Judy, sometimes it's also, it can also happen that somebody who has masculine energy can attract controlling men, because those are the men who, if you're leading with a high level of masculine energy, you're going to push a lot of really good men away, and the ones who you're going to attract might be the ones who are stronger than you or more controlling than you are. So that can happen. All right. So is this clicking with anybody? Does anybody have instances where you've had situations with men where maybe they needed space and then you started to get anxious, and they, and then that pushed them further away instead of, just being calm and being able to be, in your own power and, have confidence that he would come back? Has anyone ever had the experience that when a man took space, you got anxious? And then, so Kaylee says, yes, she did. Anybody else? Anybody ever have that happen where a man took space from you and that triggered your insecurity, your anxious attachment style, and then you got anxious, and maybe that derailed the whole relationship? Is Kaylee the only one? Are Kaylee and I the only two women who have ever done this? Because this is a big deal. Yeah. So Annette says it triggered my insecurity, me. So this is a big, big thing. I mean, this really is a huge thing for you. You've got to be careful and understand that when a man pulls away, the worst thing you're going to do, if you get anxious and you start trying to push them to, to connect with you when they're not ready, you're going to push them away and not give them the space to come back and connect with you. One of the things that I figured out, one of many things I figured out when I was dating, was that everything I was doing, everything I was saying and doing, who I was being in every moment was sending messages to men. And I would start to ask myself, is this attractive behavior? Is this attractive behavior? Because if I was going to do something that, we do all of these big and little things in relationships, and what happens is we can actually derail them in the very early stages by not understanding things like a man's need for space. And then we get anxious and we get needy and then we push them away. And then the relationship is over before it even started. So Anne says, can you give the impression that you are two together and that you don't need them? Absolutely, Anne. Absolutely. So this is not about putting on an act or acting like you're two together. Like if I were dating somebody and it went on, somebody I was dating and we had agreed that we were in a committed relationship and he went rogue for, 48 hours and I'm in a relationship with that person, I wouldn't make a scene and I wouldn't make him wrong, but I would definitely let him know that yes, I was concerned that I hadn't heard from him and that, I would definitely put up a boundary around that and just say, I understand if you need time and space. It would be wonderful if you could let me know just so that I'm not worrying about you. It's okay to take that time if you need a couple of days or, you're going through something, but just let me know. Just pop me a text and say, hey, I'm just having a rough time. I'm having a few bad days. And, if it's okay, I just need a little space. That's fine. Olga says that she's done this, but not to the point of derailing. Good. Kelly said that I gave my ex total space. Well, Kelly, there's a balance. So it can't be total space, right? There's got to be a certain amount of reaching out or just saying, hey, you've been gone for a little while. If there's anything you want to talk about, I would love to connect with you or just know that I'm here for you if you need me. So sometimes that's enough too, just to say, hey, I'm here. But at some point, if you're in a committed relationship, it's not okay for somebody to just go away, like I said, for more than 24, 48 hours. Christine said, this seems to be happening to me right now. I've been dating this guy for 3 weeks and seemed really into me and then seemed to back off and hasn't contacted me for the last couple of days. And yes, I felt like you said. So Christine, 3 weeks is early and guys will come on pretty hard and fast in the beginning. So he could, I don't know what's going on, but I would definitely send him a funny meme or something, and just send him a little poke and just see if, maybe there can always be a miscommunication. There could be something going on that, maybe there was a misunderstanding or something, but just let him know that you're thinking of him and that, but just send him a little message. Just because he hasn't contacted you or he seems to have backed off, there's nothing wrong with sending one message, just poking them once. Catherine said he would leave 3 to 4 days at a time, and then my anxiety would kick in. This pattern went on for 4 years. So when you look, Catherine, at attachment theory, your attachment theory is, many of you have heard me mention that there are 3 different kinds of attachment styles. There's a 4th. So there is anxious, avoidant, secure, and in very rare cases, there are people who are anxious avoidant. So it is very important. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It is so important when you are in a relationship, whether you're an infant or an adult, that you have a secure attachment figure. And what that means is a partner that you can rely on and count on, so that, life is precarious. Many of you are young, you're healthy, you have great lives. But then something out of the blue hits us like a pandemic. And suddenly, you're blindsided, you're alone, you don't have anybody in your life. Maybe you have parents and friends, but it's not the same as having a life partner, a husband, a wife, somebody that you can lean on and go to when life gets wonky, right? And so having a secure attachment figure is important. When somebody leaves for 3 or 4 days at a time and your anxiety kicks in, that's horrible. Of course you feel anxious. Of course you feel insecure, because that's not the way you treat somebody that you're in a relationship with. For 4 years, you can't do that because you counted on him. He was your safety, your source, hopefully, of safety and security. But it's like hundreds of little abandonments over time. You feel abandoned over and over and over again. And it feels like if you reach out for help, you're going to be crying out for help, and he's going to be taking care of himself. He's not there for you. You can't count on somebody like that. So it's scary. So that's not what I'm talking about. That would have been the kind of thing that you should have ended. It wasn't safe. It wasn't secure. You're looking for a person who may need to go away for, some hours or a day, but not somebody who's going to leave for 3 or 4 days repeatedly over the course of 4 years. So Christine says, so I'm giving him space, and when he's ready, then okay. Well, again, when he's ready can't be days or weeks or months. It's got to be within 24, 48 hours tops. Anne says, do men like independent women, or do they think there's no space for them? So Anne, men really admire women who bring something to the table, but not women who can't show that they need a man. It's emasculating for a man to be with a woman and feel like there's nothing he has to offer her. And what men feel like they have to offer us is that they can cherish, protect, and adore us. And if we won't welcome that, and we're so independent that, a guy is trying to find ways to cherish and adore and protect us, and we're like, no, I can take care of that. I've got that. I can do that. Then a man doesn't feel like that there's any room in your life for him. So it's a balance. They want a woman who isn't needy and isn't like a wilting flower, who limps along. I don't know if you ever saw A Streetcar Named Desire, but there's a line in there where Vivian Lee says, I always rely on the kindness of strangers. She's so desperate and needy that she takes advantage of people. She relies on them and leans on them. Catherine says 3 to 4 days each week for 4 years, no contact, communication. It was too much for me. And I just sat there and would be fine with it. And I ended it. Oh, Catherine, we should have talked, you and me. That's not okay, honey. It's just not okay. We have to know that when we reach out for our partner, that our partner's there for us. And it's not okay if he's so self-involved, that he's just doing what's right for him and that he's not thinking about you. It's just, that's not good. Yeah. Olga says, when I started dating my husband, he disappeared for a few days. As it turned out, he was scared, and he did not impress me enough. That he didn't impress me enough. Olga, that's okay, once in a while. I'm not saying that that's not, I get that, and that's very sweet that he was nervous. I talk with the women in my course about how men are just as, afraid of us as we are of them. And in some ways that's very endearing, but that's, you can't do that like with Catherine, where he disappeared 3 to 4 days, every week. It almost sounds, Catherine, like he had a double life, Bonnie says, hi, I've been poking my handsome neighbor for the last year. He used to live in my unit. Now he's downstairs. We've talked on the phone a few times, but mostly just friendly. I really like him. Next steps. Oh, you've been poking him by text and funny videos. Well, I would say, Bonnie, that, you may need to just make a suggestion like, wow, the theaters have opened up. It would be great to go and see, I don't know what's new at the theaters, but it would be wonderful. There's this film I want to see. Would you like to join me? You've got to kind of put it out there that you're interested, or I would love to grab a drink sometime. Anything like that. Just put it out there and see if you can spark something. Men like to be asked out by women too, by the way. It's not always that men want to do all the chasing. Hi, Sharon Eder. How are you? How are things going? Are you having a great life? I miss you. I miss all the women that I miss you so much. But poke him, and not just by text, but sometimes women think that just because we're talking to a guy or we're smiling or whatever, that guys really get it. You've got to know, men are daft. They are daft. Like, they don't realize that you're hitting on them. Just like sometimes we don't realize when guys are hitting on us. So you may have to be a little more obvious about what your intentions are. You may have to be a little more obvious. So anybody have questions about anything I've shared, or just questions about dating, anything going on in your dating life that you want to ask me about? Anything? Yes, Bonnie. Bonnie said, oh, you're in Florida with your granddaughter. That is fun. Oh my goodness. Sharon, tell me, how old is your granddaughter? That must be like the most wonderful feeling in the world to be with a grandchild. I can't even imagine. So that was your thought, that you need to get bold. You got to get bold. Look, the truth is, in life, we got to get bold. We got to ask for what we want and not sit back and just think, 4 months old. Oh my God, Sharon, she's just a little baby. That is too sweet. Oh, I bet you are in love. Palmer Rose. What a beautiful name. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, if you want grandkids, that is the sweetest thing in the world. So we have to get bold. Sometimes we just don't really ask for what we want in life. We're so afraid. I look back Bonnie, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I look back at my first marriage, and one of the most embarrassing things, if I look back today, I was just so happy to be with my ex-husband and to finally have a guy, that one of the things that I did was um, he, I wanted a man who would, secretly I was longing for a guy that would want to do things for me, that would want to do nice things and take me on trips and, treat me like a princess. But I was just happy to have a guy, any guy. And so I made it okay, with my ex-husband. I just made it okay for him to not do anything. And I made excuses, and I told myself that we were special, and I didn't need a guy to buy me things or do anything for me. And that, we had love and we lived a great life and we lived an exciting life. And I just rationalized, crumbs. And so we went down together to the jewelry mart, the discount jewelry mart in Los Angeles, and we each paid $60 for our gold wedding bands. I didn't even expect him to buy or ask him to buy a wedding band for me. That's how much I was afraid that I wouldn't get what I wanted. I was so afraid. And I think part of why we don't ask or we don't have high standards is because we're scared that we're not going to get it. And so we just make excuses and then we don't ever get it. And now in my current marriage, Benjamin would do anything in the world for me, anything. He's in there cooking dinner for me right now. That's how sweet this man is. Lisa says, I've been seeing my guy for 3 weeks. I know that he wants a long-term relationship. I haven't asked him about that further. Should I ask him what would that look like for him? Well, Lisa, it's been 3 weeks. It's pretty, I wouldn't be, I would give it a little bit more time. I think 3 weeks is a little soon. So I would just let this thing unfold and really enjoy what you're learning, just get to know each other a little bit. I usually say somewhere around 5 or 6 weeks is when you should, if that hasn't come up, if it hasn't been raised, that's when you should bring it up. Bonnie says, I can be forward. I don't fear rejection. I'm 59, separated. And this is all new to me again. I was married 32 years. It's over, but that's okay. That's great, Bonnie. Yeah, then just put it out there. Just put it out there and have fun and just, ask for what you want. Just ask for what you're looking for. And see what happens. It sounds like you've got a good handle on this, though. Have you been online dating? Have you been on the apps or the dating sites yet? And how long have you been separated? Or how long has your marriage really been over? I'm curious. We're actually the same age. So you and I are the same age. I'll be 60 in about 5 months. So it's coming up quick. You haven't done online dating yet. Yeah. Hopefully you won't have to. Maybe it'll work out with this guy. You can ask him on a date and you won't have to date online. Yeah. It's a whole new world out there, Bonnie. No, dating separated since 2019. So you've been separated almost for 2 years now. So are you ready to get out and start dating yet? Are you ready to do that? June 14th is your birthday. Okay, so you'll turn 60 just a little before me. Yeah, my husband and I are planning a trip to Sri Lanka for my 60th birthday. So that should be interesting. We tried to pick some place that sounded really exciting. We were looking at Portugal and Barcelona and Turkey, and I think there was one other place. Oh, Bali, soon, very soon. Yeah, well, Bonnie, you may want to start dabbling with online dating. because that's really, for most of my clients, I'd say that that's where they're meeting people, especially when they're in their late 50s and early 60s. So that's usually the place that they meet now these days, is online. So I would start just dipping your toe in there. I'd be happy to go south. Bali is supposed to be amazing. I think it is, Lisa. I really do. I was in Bali for a day on a cruise, but I'm going to go to, I think I'm going to go to Sri Lanka, just because I was actually in Sri Lanka for a day on a cruise. So there you go. I've always wanted to go back to Bali, but for some reason, I think I want to go to Sri Lanka. I don't know why. I'm just being called there. So should be really amazing. It's one of it's a big spot for travel now. So yeah, Lisa met her guy on Zoosk, Bonnie. Lots and lots of people meet online these days. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody struggling out there? You don't need to hear about my 60th birthday trip. I'm here to answer your questions. Who's got some dating questions for me? I know there's a bunch of people on here. So anybody? Hey, Natalie, I didn't see your, yes, that was a great movie. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Kelly, it's supposed to be awesome. I was just there, like I said, for a day watching the replay. Do you warn women to meet up in a safe place and let someone know where they will be? Yeah, Clissy, you can. I would definitely meet people out in a safe place, and even get on a Zoom call or an actual phone call if you can. I think that would be a great thing to do as well. Get on a Zoom call and really see if you even, like, the great thing about the pandemic is that people are now you pre-qualify the heck out of them. Well, I don't know. I had zero bad experiences when I dated. Zero. I had no bad dating experiences. And I went out on 96 first dates. So it worked for me. I didn't have a lot of, and a lot of my women don't have bad experiences. So, if you know what to look for, it's one of the reasons people hire me, is because I really make it safe for them to go out and date online. The best way what is this? The best way to plan to meet someone who lives in another state. Oh, that's a great question, Kelly. So, I would personally not stay at their home. I wouldn't stay at their home if you're meeting in another state, or if there's chemistry, if there's the ability to jump into something quickly, I would get a hotel and stay separately, and meet them and see the city and enjoy, but not, if they want to show you around, that's wonderful. But I don't think I would just go and stay at their place. I would get a separate place. I would stay separately. And I wouldn't stay in the same place with them. So I would get, the first time I would just, because you don't know, what if it's awful? What if you just don't click? What if you don't hit it off? You may really want to be able to have a place to go back to and not have to stay there if it gets weird. So it's nice just to have a place to go. You can also meet in the middle so that it's on, neutral territory. You go halfway, he goes halfway. Pick a place in between and get separate rooms. Absolutely get separate rooms. Barry says, how do you get the man to take the lead on Bumble once you match with them? Because we have to make the first move. So Barry, what you would say is, I bet if you asked for my phone number, I would give it to you. So then you set it up like it's a bit of a challenge, but you're asking them to ask you. So I bet if you asked me for my phone number, I'd give it to you. Or I bet if you invited me to get on a phone call or a Zoom date, I would say yes. And then when they ask you for your phone number, you say, what? You think I'm going to just give you my phone number? With a wink, and then you give them your number. You want to make them work for it a little bit. Kelly, he could pick you up at the airport. That would be fine, but you want to keep a healthy distance on that first meeting because you just don't know. And you don't want to assume anything. And it'll give you but it'll give you an opportunity to have, just be able to pace yourself and feel comfortable. Diana says, how do you address an issue with a man whose words don't match his actions? I'm dating a doctor. He recently returned from vacation and knew it was my birthday this week. He was on vacation. While he was on vacation, he was constantly saying how much he wished I was there and how much he wanted to see me. We talked about celebrating my birthday on the weekend. On Friday, he tells me on his call this weekend, I understand, he's on call. I understand he is a doctor and has patients, but if it's unlikely he will be able to meet this weekend. Diana, if it were me, I would probably say this to him. I would say, I know that things come up. I know that you, and I understand that you may be working this weekend. And we had discussed, we had talked about celebrating my birthday. Do you think that that's still possible? So being on call doesn't mean that he can't see you. He's just on call, from what I understand. So I would just say, I understand that you're on call. We had discussed celebrating my birthday. Does that mean that you'll still be available? And you do it in a kind of neutral way. I know a lot of you don't want to have to ask for what you really want, but sometimes you have to do that. And then you'll see what he says. Luann says, I met a nice man and we've been talking and have seen each other a few times, always a gentleman. I've noticed he has some people-pleasing codependent traits. How do I address this with him? Luann, I'd need to know more about that. When you say he has some people-pleasing traits, that could be wide open. So what does that mean? Can you give me a little bit more? It's nice to see you, Kelly. Bye, honey. I hope we get to see each other soon. We're getting our place a little bit more together now. So maybe you and I can get together. Our houses, we've got our coyote fence up. So maybe you and I can actually get together. Luann, I'd need a little bit more information because I don't really know. I don't know if he's overly accommodating. I don't know if maybe he's like got an ex-wife and he's too accommodating. I have no idea. He says, do I text too much? Is it okay? Well, I don't think that that doesn't sound like people pleasing. I think he wants to know if he's texting too much or too little. I actually think that's a great question for somebody to ask. I think that that's really, really wonderful that he asks you that because he doesn't want to be overbearing. So to me, that's a really healthy thing. I actually encourage people to talk about that stuff when I coach them, because everybody has a different, like to me, any amount of texting is too much texting. So I just hate texting. So to me, I think that that's great. I think that's something you should negotiate when you're dating somebody is how much texting is too much. So that to me, I'm not trying to not answer your question, but to me, I think that's a great question to ask. You may be overanalyzing it. Yeah. I think that that's wonderful that somebody would say that because, if he were to text you first thing in the morning and he texts you throughout the day, some women love that. And some women really think it's annoying. Like me, I would find it really annoying because I'm busy. I don't have time to sit and text people. In fact, my phone is upside down. I'm sitting here going, Do I have texts from people? Yes, I do. A text I haven't answered from this morning. Bonnie says, I usually get a smile or a thumbs up. I don't think my neighbor likes to text. Probably not. Probably not. A lot of people don't, or they just don't have time, or maybe it's just, that's their response. He never initiates a text. I think he's very busy. Or some people just don't text. Bonnie, I would ask him about it. I would just say, do you mind me texting you? Or, do you enjoy texting? I mean, it's a legitimate question to ask somebody. It really is. I mean, I have clients who are super busy and they have high profile jobs, and like they just can't text throughout the day. Other people have their phones like right there and they're like on it. So I don't know. I think that's a legitimate thing. All right, everybody, I have got to go get ready. I still have one more call before my day is done. I want you all to know I have an amazing 45-minute presentation. If you haven't seen it, some people say it's the best of its kind. I encourage you to go to my website and please check this out, because it is really, really, really informative, and you don't want to be out there dating without the right skills. So, this is really a process. You can be out there and turning off men without even knowing it. There's so many subtle things that men and women don't realize they're doing that turns men off. And yes, I do have an amazing 12-week course. Thank you, Lisa. All right, everybody. Sharon, it's great to see you. So much love to you. Lisa, I love that you come on my calls. Judy, it's wonderful to see you back again. And love to everybody. Again, give me a thumbs up or a heart or something if you enjoy this. It always makes me feel good to get that praise. So please don't be shy, but let me know if you're enjoying the lives. Tell your friends about these. Let's get women on them. Put this on your feed so that we can get more women watching these things. This is how we're going to all create better women. Better women create better men. So let's all, spread the word, okay? My love to everybody. I will see you next week. If there are topics, ladies, if there are topics that you want, thanks, Sharon. I love that. My email is lisa@lisashield.com. If you want, thank you, Christine. I appreciate the feedback. If you have a topic that you want me to do a whole Facebook Live on, please do me a favor. And Beth McGee, oh my God, how could you be on my Facebook Live and not say hi to me? One of my favorite people in the whole world. Please send me an email and just shoot me an email and say, Lisa, could you do a Facebook Live on this subject? Okay. I would love, love, love to get your suggestions. That's what I'm here for. All right. It's 6:00. I got to run. Love to everybody. And I will see you all on the next one. Take care, ladies, and be safe out there. Okay.